Surf's up. We're dino dancing into another tier list. This one's actually rather important when coming up with the end of the year lists for team of the year, player of the year, just thinking about the weights of tournaments. And also, the reason that this is clearly important is that a lot of people come into the Counter-Strike space and you see all of these tournaments in the year. You see Cologne, you see London, you see FISSURE, you see Thunderpick, and then you think to yourself as someone that's a new viewer, why is this one more important when this one is less important, when actually the prize money is pretty high in some of these, and yet why as a fan am I supposed to care about some more or care about some other ones less? Okay. Hey guys, the sponsor of this video is Skin Club, the case opening website. They've been getting extremely involved with the esports space lately, sponsoring teams like Vitality, the Mongols, Saw. They recently sponsored the HLTV Awards, which they were kind enough to fly me out to. So if you like my content on here or on my Twitch, check out their community portal on their website to consume more esports related and focused content by people like myself, Kerrigan, and James Banks. There are deeper dive articles, tier lists from people like myself, and articles about pro skin loadouts. I also publish some of my content monthly over there, so be sure to give them a look. It's tough. It's tough to navigate the Counter-Strike space, so I'm here to guide you, all right? I'm also going to be outlining even more specifically than you probably even want me to, the coefficients that I would more or less grade a performance of a tournament at when I'm thinking about team of the year, player of the year. So yeah, this can get pretty specific. I might change some of these tier lists as we move on, but let's just go. First things first. I don't ask for this very often, but if you haven't subscribed on YouTube and you're watching it on YouTube, please subscribe. And thanks for also subbing on Twitch. Daldax, thank you. And yes, this was recorded live on Twitch. That's why you see Twitch chat, and that's why you see me going on tangents versus other people. So let's get into it. The most important part of every calendar year regarding Counter-Strike is the major, okay? I would like to differentiate over time for the most important majors versus the least important. I feel like for the legacy of players, once majors switched to the 2-a-year system, because there were at times 4 majors that went on in a single 365-day span, I feel like if I'm looking back at legacy and looking back at history, those majors were worth less for me. But we're not getting into that. This is a 2025 list of the events. And so both the Blast Austin Major and the StarLadder Budapest Major that will be coming up in December. Both of these are the most important events of the year. There's no questions about that for me. There is obviously some debate regarding is the format the best. And if you want to become a format geek here, this is your time to maybe try to undermine what the majors are doing. The BO1 format Swiss stage that occurs throughout stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, I think is rather heinous for the MR12 system that we're in. Okay. I'm going to go to the bottom, okay? I'm going to go to the bottom first. I'll go to the lower ranked events, I'll put some middle events, and I'll put some higher ranked events, and then we'll fill out everything in between, okay? For the events that are worth the least in my eyes, this would be online tournaments. These are tournaments that may have relatively impressive prize pools, but they are ones that are not really as important in the grand scheme of... Liquipedia might tell you that these are A-tier events, but reality is that they're online and people are always going to care less. The reason for that being is that when you've got teams playing against each other in person, there's less external factors for why they would play badly, such as ping, tech issues. Not that these things don't exist. Like tech issues obviously exist in the LAN environment, but some players at home are much more comfortable than other players at home for various reasons. If you're closer to the server that's playing the match on, let's say it's being played in Germany and you already live in Germany, you probably are going to have better routing to it than someone else. So you're going to have a better chance of just having an easier game for yourself. So some of these tournaments actually involve an online group stage leading into them. So that's something to also consider here. I'm going to just say the lowest ranked event for me throughout the year is going to be an event that goes entirely online. I respect this company a lot. This company has had no problems, as far as I've known, for paying talent. They used to have their own form of self-government where they would make sure that match fixers weren't allowed in or people with suspicious behaviors. I haven't heard as much regarding these events for cheaters. I feel like they get a bad rep because they're they kind of are associated with Tier 2, but it is the pinnacle of Tier 2, okay? That's the CCT Global Finals, okay? The CCT Global Finals has already occurred this year. It was casted by Anders, Ted, Lucy, B-Dog. Analysts were Trav, Paladin, Hayes, and Exner. It was a 150K event. It was an A-tier tournament, according to Liquipedia, but it was entirely online. The winner of the tournament was Heroic, which you could say is kind of like the gatekeepers of Tier 1.5, and then they beat out Heroic or Bait in the grand finals. So they actually had a 500K global finals last time. I probably would have ranked this one a little bit higher. They actually had Tier 1 casters completely with Henry G and Anders. They had hosts along with analysts, and Eternal Fire won it over Team Liquid. You had Tier 1 teams here that were playing in an online tournament. It had a lengthy GSL group stage into a single elimination bracket with a BO5 grand finals. Last year, this one might have been a little bit higher, but this year it was a little bit lower. And a tournament that's relatively similar to it this year would be the Roobet Cup, a 500K tournament, 20 teams. It almost looks exactly, I don't know the format. I think it's GSL. This is practically CCT again. This is practically CCT of last year, but once again. And so, in all honesty, I'm going to rank the Roobet Cup a little bit higher than I ranked the CCT Global Finals of this year. I don't wish this was the case. I like CCT more as a company. Blast Premier is in here. You know where to rank us, right? Yes, I've already put the Blast Austin Major in the majors tier. It's already right there, okay? We don't need to ask any more questions. Please, if you are hiring me for future events, which you are, do not watch the rest of the video, okay? Getting fired live. Okay, now let's go to the top tier, okay? I think that this is the event that is the third most important in the calendar in general. I feel like the Lanxess speaks for itself in terms of what it is as an arena, about 10,000 person capacity. It's a hallmark of the Counter-Strike calendar in the middle of the year. It's almost like an assessment after the player break now. I think the timing of Cologne has gotten a little bit worse because it's pretty much right after the player break, so sometimes you have roster moves, but it's very difficult to fluke a Cologne, okay? You don't fluke a Cologne, okay? Let me bring up Colognes in general. And if you look at the history of Colognes here, you have through history, Ninjas in Pajamas, Fnatic, SK, Navi, Team Liquid, and then we switched the IEM circuit, and that would be the IEM circuit had Team Spirit this time. If we look back at the other IEMs in history, we had Navi winning it in 2021, we had FaZe winning it in 2022, we had G2 winning it in 2023. We had Vitality winning it in 2024. All of these teams have been elite through history, okay? Even the grand finals, you've got Navi versus G2, FaZe versus Navi, G2. ENCE is probably one of the bigger surprises here. Vitality versus Navi, Spirit versus Maus, okay? You know, you've got practically always elite teams every single time. Cologne will be in the 1.00 list. Actually, we're going to take that out to 0 because it's rounded, okay? It's probably worth more like 0.98 in the coefficients. Actually, let's do this. Changing this to 0.95. It's not worth the same as a major. It's not a 1.00. It's not on the same level, but it is right there. It's right there. There we go. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Okay, let's find some other events that are a little bit beneath Cologne, but not in the same tier. Let's kind of just go down the line, okay? So other tournament that I consider to be fairly important in the season, but one that not quite at the level of Cologne. I think the numbers are they're up for debate, okay? These numbers are not hard fast in the coefficients that I would multiply a tournament by if I were to separate them. In fact, I think it even looks bad to put CCT Global Finals at 0.4. So the other tournament that I think has been the most important in the calendar beyond these two tiers is the Open. The reason I say that is, let me pull it up. Let me pull up how the event looked. So this was the Open Spring event. It was 16 teams it's like 800K because of the club purse, but it was 16 teams. It was a LAN group stage of GSL that went into a playoffs that then went, so it was like, it was practically GSL. Then you go into an upper bracket. It's almost the same as Cologne and Katowice, okay? It's almost the same exact format that we got. And we got VRS invites for all of the top teams, like everybody was there. You had the ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think you basically had the top 10 teams here in order. For the results of it, I mean, you got a lot of the best teams in the playoffs. I mean, you got Eternal Fire, Spirit, Maus, Vitality. Look at the top 6 teams. Were these not roughly the top 6 teams in the world? I think the only surprise one was G2 over the Mongols. But you had Vitality over Maus. That was 1 versus 2. I guess Falcons kind of crashed out on this one. Actually, it was before they made their moves. But that's not the event's fault that they did that. So Lisbon is a 0.9. It's right there beneath Cologne. I think this was an elite event. It was very elite. It was the same as the main stages of Cologne and Kato. So this was an elite event in my eyes. And to me, this is actually now the best event of the year for the Blast Circuit. I don't really see a case for any of the other events to have as much gravitas as what Lisbon was. You had the best teams playing at it. You had no online portion of it, and that gives it a lot of prestige. And yeah, I mean the actual playoffs of it in Lisbon were insane. I mean, you had a huge amount of fans, big audience, crowd was going wild. All of the stops were pulled in terms of production value. It was elite. It was elite. Disclaimer: I was employed for that event. Disclaimer is really, I've been employed by practically all of these tournament organizers at one point or another. Practically all of them. Okay. Yeah, we'll move down a tier. Okay, we'll move down a tier here to the lower than Lisbon, but still fairly important category. I'm going to take the environment of ESL Pro League. Okay, I think ESL Pro League is still an important event in the calendar. It's still obviously, it contributes to the Grand Slam. So Pro League is kind of in a weird position right now, where the first Pro League of the year was all studio, period, and then it just ended with a studio environment, and people kind of relaxed during it. I'm kind of between these two. It's always just been regarded as a more low-key, lighter event, kind of had a bloated format. And it's changed so much over the course of, 7 years of Pro League existing, maybe even 8 years. This was last year in Malta in the studio. This year was just all in the Stockholm studio. And then this year is all in the Stockholm studio. Okay. So it's still just a pure studio event. It has a lot of the best teams. A lot of the best teams are there. A lot of kind of random teams are here as well. You got the stage 1, stage 2, and then you have the playoffs. You have a single limb bracket, and it has a 3rd place match with the BO5 finals. In terms of rigor and in terms of the quality of teams, it's very high, but the no playoff portion of it has me leaning towards the 0.7 category. I just don't value that as highly. And the reason I don't value it as highly, even though the format makes sense, it has a lot of elite teams, the prize pool is good, is that pressure is found in the moments in front of an audience. When you have a roaring audience of 5,000 plus people that are adding pressure, when there's a walkout where they have to, let me show you something. When you have this aspect to the tournament, people play differently. When you are walking in front of 15,000 people, you might miss a spray transfer. When you see roaring fans 3 levels high and you hear them as the arena shakes, pressure is added, okay? That is just what it is, all right? So the studio aspect knocks it down a peg, okay? Final answer. I'm trying to think what would go beneath this now. That is still an elite event. Okay, so the events beneath this are kind of like studio environments that have good, decent teams. But yeah, I'm going to put it like this, guys. The next tier beneath Pro League, you've got tier 1, tier 1.5 teams. And then you have no aspect of it's kind of like studio pressure. So this is kind of in the FISSURE category. The FISSURE category it's on a LAN. The whole thing's on a LAN. The prize pool's pretty high. You have some decent teams, but I can't really rate it any higher than that. EPL has the benefit of having the best teams in it, so there is more to it. So yeah, FISSURE is above Roobet Cup. All right, that's where we're at with that one. So let's look at FISSURE really quickly here. It was an offline event, 450K. It had some good talent at it. And the whole thing is GSL into a single limb bracket with grand final. That's fine. That's totally fine. Liquipedia considers it an A tier event. I think FISSURE 2 will have an arena though. I think FISSURE 2 is going to have for the playoffs, it's going to be in person. Am I really counting FISSURE as high as Pro League? FISSURE Playground 1. I can't even watch it back. Dude, their VODs are gone. It's not even on fucking YouTube. Bro, there's no recorded history of this fucking event. How could it be higher in a tier if there's no fucking history of this shit? Yeah, this is not getting higher. Here's my final answer. The reason Fissure 1 is lower than EPL is because it's studio into LAN, yes, and it has a bit of, it does have an audience. However, the top teams aren't there. And I'm also going to say this. If you as a tournament organizer are not going to put your shit on the platforms where people can actually watch them, I'm just going to punish you for that. This is slightly subjective, okay? This is not an objective rating for some of the lower tier events. I'm just also like annoyed by that. So, okay. So now though, filling the slot between Lisbon and Pro League, I think this is going to be a little bit difficult. So for the 0.8 events between Pro League and Lisbon is that you're getting a lot of the elite teams, maybe not 100% of them, but like 95% of the elite teams. You have the arena component, roughly similar in scale to the most prestigious events, but maybe a smidgen less. It's still an arena. I'd still call it an arena, but it's not the same stadium factor as like these. These are all huge ass stadium. Oops. These are all stadiums. Okay. The others are arenas. A little bit of a difference. So I'm putting Dallas in this tier because as much as I've always liked Dallas, everybody liked to tell me, as someone that was working Dallas 3 years in a row, that it really wasn't worth that much. And that was kind of due to a couple things. That was because of the calendar. That was because European teams would complain that they're jet lagged. And so they'd make excuses for when they had bad performances. And then also, simply put, Spirit didn't go to this one. This was kind of like a training ground, I felt like, for a lot of people for Austin. So yeah, I consider Dallas on that level. But we got most of the good teams at it. So the thing is, when looking at Dallas, this is what we had. We had a 300K prize pool. We had double elim GSL. We had kind of the normal IEM sort of format, single elim bracket with BO3s up until the grand finals, which is a BO5. It's a very competitive format. Again, very hard to fluke your way through this. You have to win to even make it to the playoffs. You have to win a minimum of 2 BO3s. But even for a team like Gamer Legion, for example, or let's see, did anybody make it all the way through the lower bracket? So Aurora, they had to win 3 BO3s to make it to the playoffs. So you're winning a minimum of 2 to 3, which is nice. And then you have this single elim to make it there. Yeah, you'd have to win 5 BO3s, I think, to win the tournament, which is cool. I mean, I think most tournaments are like that. But yeah, it's not quite at the level of Lisbon. And if you put the events side by side, they look pretty similar, actually. But let's see the difference here. So the difference between Lisbon and the Dallas. So you have 16 teams versus 16 teams. The prize pool is a little bit bigger for Lisbon. You look at the teams at Lisbon, you have all of the elite, like all top 10 teams are here. All of the top 10 teams are here, I think. I don't think there's missing any. And Dallas, you're missing a couple. You're missing, for example, Spirit. You got practically everybody else on this one. It gets a little weaker at the bottom. Like this feels like it's kind of a big drop off from the top 9 teams here and the bottom 7. The Open does fall off on the bottom. The bottom 3 teams are weak, but really the top 13 teams are really strong. And the prize pool is bigger. These are the slight edges that Lisbon gets over Dallas for me. Better arena, better teams. Yeah, I'll take that. All right, now let's start filling out some of these with the remaining tournaments, okay? So this is kind of your rough metric, though, for where all of these tournaments lie in my eyes. Slightly subjective. I think Fissure events probably maybe... Fissure, when you're calling your tournament Playground, I'm sorry, you're just not going to get as much respect, okay? Just a dumb name. Just a dumb name. Change the name. Okay, so moving through this, here are some other tournaments that I think I can kind of grade off the rip. Okay, StarSeries Fall is pretty low tier for me. I think this is almost beneath Fissure, actually. So I'm gonna look at the StarSeries event that's coming up right now. I don't think there's any reason to consider this high tier. So you have essentially an 8-team tournament with a European qualifier that teams like 9 Paravision OG went through. This is really some weak sauce IMO. It's got a big prize pool. It does have an arena component. But if you even look at the teams in attendance, like this looks like a CCT. This literally looks like a CCT. I'm almost tempted to put it here. I think Fissure might be better than StarSeries, actually. No arena, only studio. It has no arena. Oh, it has no arena at all. Okay, it's 0 arena component at all. It's all studio. Yeah, this is practically a Roobet Cup. This is almost as low as it gets when it comes to a full studio event. Okay. Wow. Okay, so yeah, that is definitely in the 0.5 tier. Even Fissure, I would consider to be a bigger event than the StarSeries Fall. Okay, I'm going to move bottom to I'm going to move low to high actually on this, okay? So CAC, I think, does have a tournament component. I would probably put CAC in the 0.6 category or maybe 0.7 category. I think it's going to be 0.6. The quality of teams is probably kind of low here. So let's see. CAC is coming up. It's 400K prize money. It's an A tier on here. The teams you have none of the elite teams, like 0 elite teams at all, unless you consider FaZe to be an elite team, but not really for this year. It does have an arena component. It's kind of like EPL. I don't really... The EPL full studio, even with the best teams versus having an arena component but not the best teams, makes me want to put CAC a little bit higher. I like that CAC has as many teams as it does. 16 is not bad, but I think EPL has to be a little bit higher. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate these actually. I'm going to actually put a row above. I'm going to put a 0.65 tier. Might be some cope here because I just see it as a little bit better personally. I think it's pretty similar though. Should I even do that? It's almost the level of FISSURE, right? Too many tiers. Too many tiers. Deleting that. All right, it's in the FISSURE tier. Okay, where's Mesa Nomadic Masters? Nah, it just doesn't make it, guys. It doesn't have any of the elite teams. EPL at least has the elite teams, okay? And I think Studio with elite teams is better than Arena or whatever with not the elite teams. So yeah, it's not gonna factor in as much. Like, guys, okay, think of it like this. At the end of the year, if FaZe Clan wins CAC, we do not say that's worth an EPL, okay? Like that's just I don't need to explain that anymore, actually. There we go. So CAC is in that tier. And we can't make a billion tiers, okay? I think I like it a little more. In fact, these are ranked. These are ranked on the list that they're on, okay? On the list they're on, they're ranked. Now, another tournament. I'd say this is a little bit contentious. The PGL events that have arena components I find to be curious because they have a fat-ass prize pool. The arena event, part of it is big. Like, there are a lot of people. At Cluj and Astana, they were pretty packed. I got chills when I walked into Cluj, actually, and Astana. I was like, wow, this is big. Bigger than the feeling of Dallas, which is weird. So Dallas has better teams, but the arena part of Astana and Cluj is pretty comparable. I want to put them on the same tier in terms of my experience because I've worked both events. I've worked all of these events at the top, okay? Like, I'm telling you from the feeling of intensity in these kinds of moments, I actually feel like Cluj and Astana sort of rival Dallas. I know that there's better teams at Dallas. I'm going to have Dallas higher on the 0.8 scale, but I'm going to put Astana and then Cluj. I'm putting Astana and Cluj on the level of Dallas right now. Having an arena component still wins. It still wins for me over an EPL that's all studio. In terms of team quality, Cluj, Bucharest, Astana. Well, Bucharest, though, is full studio. And so we'll put that here. Bucharest is in a studio purely like EPL. It's going to be a little bit lower than EPL on the same tier, but not having an arena component really kills it for me, okay? It just sucks. It just sucks that that's the case, okay? Okay, I don't think this deserves much explanation or needs it. I think Katowice is still a super elite event. I rank it personally lower than Cologne. Like if I was splitting hairs at the end of the year and I said, okay, what's more important? Let's say 2 players had the exact same eye test and then they had the exact same MVP split. One was Cologne, one was Katowice, and they had the exact same stats. I would rank the Cologne one a little higher. That's my honest opinion. The Lanxess is more prestigious in my eyes than the Spodek. I mean, the Lanxess, when you're in there, it is reverberating and it is 10,000 people. The Spodek does have that effect, but on a smaller scale. In fact, if I'm being real, I think the arena for Astana and Cluj is kind of comparable with Katowice, if I'm being honest with you, but like, Katowice has the historic aspect of it, which gives it a huge prop up, and the teams treat it as seriously as a Cologne, etc. Okay, I'm going to do something that's a little bit contentious, and obviously I'm employed by Blast, but I find that what ended up happening for the Rival Season 1 was a bit of a disappointment because it was supposed to be a studio event going into a top 6 that would have been in person, and it was going to be all the elite teams, but because the first Rival season was just the LAN and with no arena component, it still had elite teams. It didn't actually live up to what it was supposed to be in Monterey, where it was going to have the arena component. It's going to be right here between Bucharest and Pro League. Pro League had all of the elite teams, maybe minus like 1 or something like that. Rivals, I think, had every single elite team. However, it was purely all 3 of these are just studio lands, elite studio lands, basically. They're strong studio lands. Actually, I'm not going to say elite, strong studio lands. So that's where they all end for me on this one. Let's put another one in the 0.9 category. It's a little bit weird because I don't know if there's really any tournament that matches Lisbon in my eyes. Because Dallas is like Melbourne a lot. And Chengdu, I haven't seen it yet. It's a little hard to say. Melbourne totally. Okay, yeah. Okay, honest opinion, I think Melbourne was better than Dallas, okay? I think Melbourne was pretty darn insane. Grand finals, you had Vitality versus Falcons. I think it had the best grand finals of the year, actually. I think if I actually rank grand finals and how sick they were to watch, Melbourne was my favorite. I think I actually will say Melbourne was my favorite series in CS2 history. Was that BO5 grand finals? I would have dropped everything for watching the end of that. Is this a tournament prestige ranking? Essentially, yes. So yes, it's right there with Lisbon. Let's pull up the numbers on it. 16 top teams. It didn't have Spirit though. It didn't have Spirit. Oh, it missed a few teams actually. We had Falcons, we had Vitality, we had Maus, we had Navi, we had Mongols. We didn't have Aurora. We didn't have Spirit. See, that's the thing. I think Lisbon kind of edges it out, but maybe they are the same tier. I think maybe Melbourne deserves to be in the same tier, but Lisbon actually had a better team list. So I think I'll still keep Lisbon above it. And I also already have said that like my top events of the year were these four were my top four, and then Melbourne would be the fifth so far of the year. All right, so Melbourne's right there at 0.9. Now, the Blast Bounty is interesting because I get hired for it. And the format is interesting, but it's an online group stage that leads into a LAN portion. The fun aspect about it is that it's actually 32 teams. But because the first part of it is online, I can't really give it that much of a benefit. But having that many teams is pretty rare in the season. I'm going to put it towards the tail end of the 0.7 category. It's going to be beneath Bucharest. It's weird because you would obviously like for it to all be LAN. If it was all LAN, it might just be the best LAN because it has 32 teams and everybody plays it. But it can't be on the same series as Rivals, actually. Rivals is better. It's only the top 8 goes to LAN. I think because it's single elim also in Studio, I think it needs to go here, actually. Let's see. I think it's going to go at the bottom of that, 0.6, actually. Yeah, I'm not going to rank it as high as Bucharest, Rivals, or EPL. I'll put it probably there. Yeah, that's about where it is. Why is it not at this level and why is it above this level? I'll say it's above StarSeries and Roobet because it's not just an online tournament. And StarSeries is just considerably weaker. I'm going to put, yeah, I would say that StarSeries is, yeah, I mean, what do you have? Like an online European qualifier and the only top 10 team is Navi? It's not really worth it. There's no arena component. There is a very slight audience for Season 2. For Season 2, there was like 50 people in the crowd, okay? That doesn't really measure up to even what CAC or FISSURE will be. And it's at the bottom of this. It would be nice if they started the arena portion. If they started the LAN portion after the first round, instead of having all 32 teams there, they flew out 16. I think it would have made it to the next year. But because you have only 2 single elimination rounds in person, I can't be that high. Okay, so let me bring it up though. It's a 480K tournament. The thing is that all of the elite teams were there except for Falcons. Vitality, Maus, Spirit, the Mongols, and Aurora were there. The only team that didn't make it that was a favorite. The favorites that lost were who? G2, I guess, as like a top team. FaZe and Navi. But that's their own fault for not making it, but it's because they lost online matches, technically speaking. If you look at this top 8, though, it is pretty strong. That is a very strong top 8 nowadays. I think the quality of the teams actually puts it higher than FISSURE in my eyes. Because even the quality of teams in the top 8 is better than what you got in the Bucharest playoffs. Like, let's be completely honest, guys. But just the 2 rounds is, yeah. I'm just going to put it right here above FISSURE. Because FISSURE just didn't have, like, dude, the grand finals was Tyloo versus Astralis. Like, what the hell is that, you know? Actually, yeah, the quality of teams makes this higher, okay? Yeah, the quality of you had Vitality, Spirit, and Maus in this one, okay? That's better than Bucharest and Rivals and everything like that. So it'd be kind of a disservice to say that it's not worth as much as some, like FISSURE, where the best team that plays it is like FaZe Clan or something. It's like a 0.65, yeah. Pro is single limb, they could have 64 teams. Why are you glazing them? You're telling me you don't want to see that? You wouldn't want to see a 64-team single limb tournament? Any teams in Bounty playoffs can 39-0 Tyloo and FISSURE grand final. That's what I mean, yeah. That's what I mean. Like, the elite teams are just so much better than anything at probably we're going to get at CAC or FISSURE. Yeah, I'd say 0.65. It's 0.65. If there were a tier that I would make for 0.65, I'd probably move Bucharest down 1 and then Bounty up 1. You know, it would just be like these 2, maybe CAC. If we're talking about elite teams at events, Pro League has to be 0.8. If you don't have an arena component, you're just not making it out of the 0.75 area. So where's Fragadelphia in the 0.5 territory? Actually, the importance for tier 2 teams is right here. Actually, for tier 2 teams, it's a major. It's their major. Fragadelphia is so important. Okay, so now moving on. Chengdu, I don't really know yet because Wikipedia. It's going to have the same IEM format, 16 teams, GSL into BO5 grand finals. We just don't know who is going to be there yet. So I can't really rank this one until I see the teams, but I'm going to put it at the bottom of this because I don't know who's going to accept the invite. I'd probably put it on the same level as Dallas, but I'm not going to put it there until I know. So I think it's going to have a good arena, but all of these tournaments had good arenas. All of these tournaments so far had good arenas, and I think Chengdu will as well. So that's that. So that's that for Chengdu. So EWC. All right. Contentious tournament. Very contentious tournament, okay? There is an audience for it, but it looks kind of more like a studio. It's like how many people are there? How many people are in the EWC studio, guys? I'm actually curious what it. I don't know. I don't know how many people are in these things because I haven't been watching it that closely. Like 300 paid Falcons fans. That's a good one. We'll leave that in the video, Jigsaw. So that practically puts it on the level of like the audience for EPL and Bounty. If there's like 50 people there, like 300 people there, that's like these small audiences are not, they aren't the same. They don't count the same. I'm going to put EWC in the 0.7 category. I'm going to put it above Bucharest. I'm going to put it above, I think I'm going to put it right here. I think it's single elim, so it's not really the most rigorous format either. I'm going to put it right here. EWC lands in the 0.7 category. Okay, the format's bad. A lot of the best teams are there. It's a lot of money. There is some kind of audience, but like it's kind of questionable as an audience. It doesn't feel like winning it means as much in the year. Is winning an EWC worth the same as EPL? In my eyes, yeah. I think they're roughly the same, guys. I think EWC and EPL feel the same to me if you win them. And Blast Rivals. Like Rivals maybe a little bit lower because there's so few teams that are at it. So these are all 4 tournaments now we have not seen happen yet, okay, guys? So this is a little bit tougher for me to grade. So take these, like chunk up the video, tournaments we haven't seen, including Chengdu. So take these all with a little bit more of a grain of salt, including StarSeries, but I already kind of know what that's going to be like. So FISSURE 2, it's going to be a bigger audience. It's going to have some slightly bigger teams. FISSURE Playground 2, 500K. You've got Mongols, you've got Falcons, you got Fates, you got some pretty good teams here. I won't even lie. You got Liquid Astrals. Like, this isn't bad. This is the kind of event where I actually wouldn't really mind working it. So maybe ranking them low will hurt me in the long run. But FISSURE 2 is better than FISSURE 1, okay? So FISSURE 2, I'm actually going to put this towards the top of 0.7 here. Actually, I almost want to put it in 0.8. I actually think it's kind of around that Cluj-Astana level. I'm going to put FISSURE 2 right here. 750K club reward, $1.25 million prize pool. But no Spirit, no Maus, no Vitality. At least at Cluj, you had Falcons. At Astana, you had Spirit. Bucharest actually had some decent teams, but it was full studio. FISSURE 2, not bad. I don't think it's a bad tournament if I have to grade it as objectively as I'm trying to right now. Okay, so yet to see it, so not going to linger on that too long. Now, London. I'm obviously flying to this in a few days. So let's look at it. Blast Open London. I would love to put London on the same level as Lisbon. I would love to. But there is one aspect to London that I do not really love about it, is that there's a closed qualifier. And the closed qualifier, which I will be working, is online. This is online. 16 teams here are going to have to play through an online GSL format. No. It's 2 big brackets of double elim, and the top 3 teams make it. I don't love that Blast actually did this, if I'm being real. It's GSL, and then the semi winner advances. It's kind of like an abridged version of the IEM format. It will have a land component in an arena at OVO Arena Wembley. The prize purse is decent, and this part will feel fairly legit once you're there in person at London. But given the opening stages of it, I can't go too high with it. It clearly doesn't make it into 0.9. I feel like the format is fairly, like, I want to put it above, at the very top of 0.7 or the bottom of 0.8. I think this kind of has to be in the bottom of 0.8 versus 0.7 because the LAN arena portion is significantly better than anything that's going on here. This is like 0.80 and this is like 0.88. Yeah, so I'm going to put it there. I'm just going to put it there. The reason it makes it into this category is that it's got all of the elite teams, just like EPL, just like EWC, but the format is flawed, but there's still an arena portion to it, okay? So now Rivals Hong Kong. Let's do this. Blast Rivals Hong Kong. So Blast Rivals Hong Kong, it's 8 teams in the Asia World Expo. It's in an arena. After the group stage, these teams are then playing a 6-team single elim tournament. This is supposed to be the best teams in the world, but I don't know what teams are going to be there. If it does include, say, Vitality, Maus, Spirit, Falcons, and then it has some pretty elite teams beyond that, this could be pretty good, but It's a studio for a couple days into a LAN playoff again. It's weird. It's not enough teams. It kind of reads EWC to me, where you're just trying to like, it's a little bit better than season 1 in EWC because it will have a LAN component. Depending on the teams that are there, it's either going to be the top of 0.7 or kind of middle of 0.7, okay? We already know with Rivals 1 that it had the best teams there, but I think that it's probably like this. It's going to end up like this, guys. It's going to end up something like that, I think, depending on the teams that are there. If we actually get 6 of the best 8 teams in the world, it's gonna be worth something. So I'm going to put it here just because it does have a full 3-day arena component. So I'm putting Rivals Hong Kong at the very top. Now, Thunderpick World Championships. So what this tournament is 340K offline Malta studio. It's just 8 teams. I have a strong feeling this isn't going to get the same level of participation because this actually goes on at the same time of CAC, if people don't know. So if you look at the tournaments, these overlap. Thunderpick and CAC are at the exact same time. Problem is that Liquipedia puts CAC as a 400. It's going to have a bigger arena, though. But we know that it's not going to have any of these teams. But Thunderpick, do we know the tournament teams yet? It's going to have a closed qualifier, and the teams for this are at this level. As I'm not really too high on this one either. I think that I don't see how this is going to coincide with CAC. I think this is going to be like there. I'm not really convinced this can be any higher than that. All right. I think CAC has a bigger arena, though. That's the thing. And FISSURE had a bigger arena. I'm going to put it like this. I think it's kind of at the top of 0.5 at the bottom of 0.6. All right, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do, guys. All right, here we go. Let me zoom in on this a little bit. All right, so this is the screenshot. This is what I consider to be my ranking for the tournaments of the year with relative coefficients based off of how I'm going to grade them at the end of it. This is a fairly objective list. I feel like you guys differed with me on a couple of these, but not too many, really. In general, the way I consider it is number of elite teams, history in the calendar, arena portion versus studio portion versus online portion. And that's pretty much it, guys. This is how I view the tournaments of the year in terms of importance. And I'm actually almost directly ranking them. Almost directly. And again, reminder, we don't know who's participating at FISSURE 2, Chengdu, Hong Kong, Thunderpick. So we don't know all of these teams. Like imagine Roobet, like Vitality, Spirit, Maus, whatever. Obviously, it's going to move up a little bit, even if it's an online tournament, but not too high. It would probably just move over StarSeries. So yeah, that's my take on these kinds of events. And in a weird way, on a tangent, it's kind of like in an ideal world for myself, I would like to work something like 8 events in a year. And which events in a year would I like to work? Some assortment of like these, the highest ranked, the most prestigious ones. A couple other ones maybe scattered in there if the events are interesting. That's kind of where I'm at with these sort of things. Okay, what do you guys hate? Which do you think is the worst placement? Hong Kong? It's actually going to have an arena portion. It has an arena component, which none of these can. None of these, well, this does. But Hong Kong, supposedly, if it gets the same teams as Rival Season 1, should have better teams than these kinds of events, which do have arenas, but don't have any teams that are that good. EWC and Pro League, why? EWC had the best teams. The format's just bad. It's just a single, it's not as competitive. It's not terrible. The format's just so weird. It's just single limb the whole way. I kind of like it for that fact, but I'm not too high on that. EWC is crazy biased. It's all land and way too crazy important for orgs and prize money. It doesn't really have a crowd. Like everything above EWC has a real stadium component, an arena component. EWC doesn't really have an arena component. PGL on the same tier as Dallas when the teams are way worse. Well, that's why Dallas is like if I were to separate this here, I can even add some nuance. Add a row above. Let's do this. 0.88 would probably just be Dallas and Melbourne like that. 0.8. And Chengdu might be up here also. It probably will end up being there, but I have to see the teams that go. And then 0.8 would be like, it would kind of be more like that, Why is Lisbon so high? It had all of the elite teams in the world, and it had an arena, and it was all on LAN. Every elite team was at it. Melbourne didn't have Spirit. Let's see, make sure about this. You had all of the best teams at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Dude, you had all 12 of the best teams. You had all 12. It doesn't really get much better than that with an arena. I don't know. There's no way. Okay, so let's look at Melbourne. It's missing number 2. It's missing number 4. It's missing number 6. It's missing 3 of the top 6 teams. It's not on the same level. Does EPL not go higher for having a stat cell format for less variant results? No arena at all? I mean, just stop yourself there. No arena. Small final crowd. I think the prestige of the tournament gets overshadowed by the nonchalant cast. If EPL is pushing for nonchalant casting in that kind of environment, as there's so many, yes, it's good for stat cell and sample size and data nerds, but it's not really actually, in terms of eye test prestige, it's pretty low. It's pretty low. London should be lower. 1, 2, 3, you're missing 4. You have 6 of the top 7. That's already better than Melbourne. If 6 of these teams make it to the playoffs, this kind of jumps it up, you know? London had all this replacement. Dude, who cares what's at the bottom? The major had some absolutely whatever teams at the bottom. I would almost put it like this. If you have an 8-team playoffs and you have or you have a 16 playoffs, whatever. If you have a majority of the top 8 teams in the world, it's already probably a good tournament. It's already going to be a good tournament. That's probably the biggest thing that should probably hurt Astana and Cluj, guys. Like, if I'm being honest, I mean, those had great arenas, like really, really big. But if I'm being serious about them, you know, you look at these teams and like how many people dipped out of. So this is Astana. You're missing 1, you're missing 3, you're missing 4. You're missing 3 of the top 4 teams. So it already should probably be a little bit lower if I'm being real. But we don't, and London could even be higher. I don't know. London could be higher. London is LAN. I bought tickets and sold them after teams got replaced. Why would you sell the tickets based off of Fnatic replacing fucking who? Fnatic replaced Gamer Legion. I just can't go to that tournament anymore. Who says that? Who says that? It wasn't even Gamer Legion. They replaced Heroic, I tell ya. They replaced Heroic. And let's look at Cluj really quickly. Like this tournament, unfortunately, just so many teams just kind of dipped out on it too. This is missing like 3 of the top 5 again or something. It's actually missing all of the top 4 teams. Yeah, there's no way. There's no way. It's because of club share. That's what they want you to think. That's what they wanted you to think. And for Bucharest, you're missing again all top 4 teams. All of the top 4 teams are missing. But you have a lot of teams that are in the 5 through 15 range. Yeah, this is kind of where I'm at with these. This is actually maybe a more exact list, actually. And we'll see. We'll see who goes to some of the tournaments that aren't coming out yet this year. But yeah, I think these are going to end up being the 5 most important tournaments of the year with majors. And this is complete. This is in order. I consider this almost entirely in order. Until we see how Chengdu pans out and Hong Kong. And I mean, everything almost to here is perfectly in order for me. I'll say this. The first 7 is indisputable for me. Like, this is exactly how I see the tournaments ranked right now. These are the most important tournaments in Counter-Strike. As always, being toxic is a choice.